All right, so let's talk about government and how big government sucks. Most of us have our first experience with the government when we get our first job, right? We get our first job, our employer says you're gonna make this much, then when you get your paycheck, it's this much. And you see, you've been taxed. You know, depending on what state you live in, you may have state income tax. Some states have much higher income tax than others. Luckily, Florida, there's no state income tax, thank God. For the rest of us, you're looking at your check and you're like, where's that money going? You know, and they tell us it goes towards, you know, schools and libraries and the police and the firemen and national defense. And that's all fine and dandy because everyone benefits from national defense. Everyone benefits from the fire department. It's a public service you pay into, and that's cool. But then it's like everything you spend your money on, there's taxes. It just seems like we're being taxed at every turn, no matter what we do. And the older you get, the more you start to see like, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't agree with all these taxes. Like, how is there still potholes in my neighborhood when you guys are taking money out of my check? Where's that money going? You know, you're being taxed on property. Like, how are you going to tax someone on property that they own? It's like either I own it or I don't. And it's like it gets worse and worse and worse. And you just kind of wonder, like, where the hell is the rest of my money going? And me, you know, I've done my research and I see a lot of the tax money that I pay and you guys pay goes towards stuff that some of us don't agree with or we don't benefit from the service. So like money goes towards Planned Parenthood. Like obviously we know what Planned Parenthood does. Every man pays into Planned Parenthood, but no man benefits from the services provided by Planned Parenthood. Well, maybe some. You get condoms, get a checkup, whatever. But it just seems like we're being taxed for stuff that we don't agree to. And this is why big government sucks, because it's a faceless entity. You can't talk to anyone specifically. You got to call the IRS. It's backed by the threat of force. So like if you don't pay your taxes, if you think you're going to circumvent a tax law, they pretty much come after you with a gun. They put you in jail. And that scares the hell out of me that our government is already big, infringing on us with the IRS. And to me, that just feels like legalized theft, that they can just take your money and they can just redistribute it how they see fit. And they're doing it at the federal level, you know, which is even scarier because you don't know where that money's going. You really don't. If it were going to like your city officials or whatever, if it was a city tax you're paying, at least then you could go to your like city officials and say like, look, why is my money going to this and not that? It at least has more of a face to it. And it scares me that people want the government to get bigger. You see March for Our Lives and all these protests for the government to take away guns and limit our free speech. And it scares me because the bigger the government gets, the smaller the citizen gets, right? They take away your freedoms, your liberties. And I don't agree with someone else who's a flawed human being just like me having the moral authority to rule over me. The moral authority to rule over me, and it's backed by the threat of force. And people want the government to get bigger. It doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right. Like, we're all flawed. So why are we going to put certain human beings on a pedestal? Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, I'm not an advocate for like anarchy and overthrow the government. I do think the government serves a purpose. I just think it needs to be limited. It needs to be limited. This is why I have like libertarian values, because the libertarians have the non-aggressive principle. Non-aggressive principle. Live and let live. Don't infringe on my personal rights, my property rights. I won't infringe on yours, and the government shouldn't infringe on mine or yours. Plain and simple. National defense, police, firefighters, libraries, whatever. But beyond that, handle it at the state and local levels. You know, everything that the government touches sucks anyway. Everything fails. And the answer is always more government. If the government fails, they're like, well, let's just add more government. Let's add this program. I mean, look at our school systems. That's run by the government. They need to stay the hell out of it. I mean, inner city schools suck, right? This is why I'm all for school choice. It just seems like a lot of things could be handled at the local level, state and local level. And when you have this big federal government, it gets tyrannical and they throw their weight around and you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. These are politicians, bureaucratic people that you've never met in your life. and yet they have the moral authority to tell you how to live your life. And if you're an individual, which we all are individuals, but not everyone thinks of themselves as an individual. I know I'm an individual. I like making my own decisions. I don't want anyone telling me how to live my life. It pisses me off. But the government tells us how to live our lives, and people want more of that. And a good example is, so like the government decides money should go to Planned Parenthood, or money should go to this cause, or welfare, and they want to tax wealthier people more money. It's like, shouldn't there be a vote on that? Shouldn't more people have a say-so on it? I want to point out California, actually, because this is the best example that I can come up with of big government and how it sucks. You know, California, for whatever reason, they are experimenting with socialism. Every day, it seems like there's some new law that they're passing, some legislation. They're just getting way too radical with their government. You know, and they wanted to see themselves as some like shining example of like a utopia, socialist utopia. But they're experimenting with socialism, and it's like, don't you see Venezuela? Don't you know the history of socialism? It has a failed track record. It just seems like every day they have some new law that's passing. Illegal immigrants, they're importing poverty, right? They're not even taking care of their own citizens. They're importing illegal immigrants. They're giving them free health care. They're giving them government, you know, handouts, food stamps, housing vouchers, Section 8. It's insane. It's insane. And that scares me because that's what people want. That's what a lot of people want. There's a lot of people on the left. They are propping it up like it is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Like, all we need to do is elect Bernie Sanders and everything will be fine. But if you're a critical thinker, you're like, who's going to pay for that? I actually just read an article today where the mayor of, what's the city? Stockton, California. I think it's like East Bay area, east of Oakland. The mayor, he's like 27 years old, which is insane, right? What life experience do you have at 27 years old? Nonetheless, he's the mayor of Stockholm, California. Cool. Or maybe it's Stockton, I don't know, whatever. He wants to guarantee his citizens, which have already lived in poverty for many, many years, like they're one of the worst cities in America for poverty. He wants to guarantee his citizens, all 300,000 of them, if they make less than $50,000 a year, he wants to guarantee them income every month, $500. And he tried to spin it as like, oh yeah, well, we'll just revisit it in a couple years and see what people's spending habits are. Mind you, they're already on Section 8 and welfare and WIC and every government program already on the books. And it just begs the question, how come when the government fails, their answer is always more government, or let's throw more money at the problem? Like, they never want to dig the problem up by the root. Maybe the root of the problem is the people aren't motivated. Maybe there's something else that they need that they don't know that they need. They're not articulating that they need. And then on top of that, you're incentivizing them. So you think that they're getting Section 8 and food stamps and all these government assistance programs. You think like, oh, let's just give them $500 a month on top of that. That's going to motivate them. That's going to demotivate them even more, right? Like, who's going to want to go to work if everything is covered? They're like, man, government pays for it. It's good. Meanwhile, they want to tax. I saw the article. He said they want to tax people who make $250,000 a year or more. He wants to tax them 50%. Now, the people that make $250,000 a year, it's not their responsibility to take care of these people that are making less than $50,000 a year and not working. I mean, if you don't work, you don't eat. Again, the non-aggressive principle. Like, why would the government infringe on some rights just to benefit others? And it just seems like this is happening more and more and more. California, they want to be this example, and they're trying to push it on everybody else. And people want to vote for it. The people want to vote for it. Again, small government is the way to go, because the opposite of limited government is unlimited government. And we're seeing that with California. You see it with Venezuela, where I heard about people breaking into the zoo to kill animals so that they have food. You know, the government is a big, faceless, corrupt entity that is taking our money, and it's full of corruption and double standards. Like, so many double standards within our government. And this is at the federal level. We don't even need to talk about like state government, which makes way more sense to me. It makes way more sense to just leave things to the state. You know, You think about what just happened in my home state, Colorado. That's a small government win, even though it was initially a big government push to make that baker make a cake for the gay couple. And that's a problem, because why does someone need to adhere to someone else to make sure that they're getting what they need at their own at the expense of their own beliefs? You know, why not let the free market happen? You know, it's capitalism. The app Yelp, that's capitalism right there. Yelp is the free market. If someone has a shitty Yelp rating, no one's going to go there. So let the free market take care of that kind of shit. Whenever the government steps in, I have a huge problem with it. Again, libertarian values. I don't care about illegal or marijuana. The government needs to get out of that. Don't throw people in jail for marijuana. Gay marriage. Again, government doesn't need to play a part in that. But yet they do. And it just happens. It just keeps happening. It keeps growing. And it's really scary to think that we could be on the brink of, you know, becoming Europe. And California is trying to be this example for the rest of the U.S. Just think, like, if California, what happens in California could happen in all 50 states. Just imagine how our freedoms would just be limited and suppressed. And then there's no end of it. And again, like I said, it's backed by the threat of force. So that's why big government sucks. That is just, and honestly, I could make this video 15, 20 minutes longer explaining more reasons why the government sucks. Big government sucks. Again, we need small government, limited to the police force, the fire departments, the library, you know, public services, build the roads, highway systems, street lights, stop signs, the things that are just everyday functionality, regardless of your socioeconomic standing. You benefit from stop signs and traffic lights and paved roads. That benefits everybody. We need to keep it there. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think sucks most about big government? Or do you like big government? I can't imagine anyone that is subscribed to my channel likes big government. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, donate to my Patreon or my PayPal, and I'll catch you in the next video.